Hello and welcome to the Ultimate Cold Email course by Salesforge. I'm your host, Simonas. And in the past few years, I sent well over 100,000 cold emails, successfully getting positive replies, booking sales calls, and closing clients. And in this course, I'll share all of my knowledge about the primary sales channel I use for my business, cold email. We'll cover cold email infrastructure, sharing the best practices, domain and mailbox setup, essentially giving you the stiffest foundation that you could build your business on. We'll dive deep into lead generation. I'll share how to set up your ideal customer's profile, where to find leads for free, and how to abuse lead generation databases to find the highest quality leads with the most buying intent. We'll find out what it takes to build a cold email sequence that gets over 5% reply rate. I'll share the fundamentals, telling you everything there is about writing a winning cold email copy, the best follow-ups, and how many of them you should send. I'll go as far as teaching you how to automate hyper-personalized cold email generation that does everything for you. And lastly, I'll share how to analyze data and constantly improve your sequences to get better and better results. And I'll share how you can automate everything from lead generation to booking sales calls so you could make money on autopilot. Basically, I'll set you up for success, sharing the best deliverability practices, industry secrets, and overpowered tools and tactics. And just so you know, at the end of each subject, I'll have raw, step-by-step tutorials of the tools that I share so you could follow along and see everything in practice rather than just theory. So if you're ready to send cold emails and make some money, let's begin the course. Email infrastructure refers to domains and mailboxes you use to send cold emails. Infrastructure is like your sales foundation, so any little mistake in your infrastructure puts a little crack in your foundation. The more cracks, the weaker that foundation, and we want it as solid as it gets. That's why I'll share the most important things you should follow when setting up your email infrastructure. I'll share how to automate the setup following the best practices and how to maintain your domain and mailbox reputation. So without further ado, let's begin. The reason we are starting with email infrastructure setup first is because, like I said, it's the foundation, and also because infrastructure takes 14 days to fully set up. It doesn't mean you'll actively have to do stuff to set it up, but one of the things that help you achieve the best deliverability is email warmup, and that takes 14 days before you could send any cold emails. So we'll get the infrastructure out of the way so we could focus on other things. And while we're scraping leads, the warm-up will do its thing, making all of this more efficient. So, like I said, email infrastructure consists of two things: domains and mailboxes. Let's start off with domains. First important aspect about domains used for cold email is that you want to get secondary domains. You don't want your primary domain that's used for your website URL, that's used for support emails, to be used for cold email. That is because if anything goes wrong with cold email, it will influence your sender's reputation. And if your sender's reputation is ruined, all kinds of transactional emails, sign-up emails, anything you would send from your primary domain mailboxes would go to spam, meaning that it's not worth the risk to use your primary domain for cold outreach. You should always use a secondary domain. And secondary domains should always be top-level domains. What do I mean by that? Well, there are all kinds of domains: .ai, .com, .org, .net, .co, and if you choose cheap domains like .xyz, you'll right away have worse reputation because these kinds of domains are usually used by spammers. So when you buy secondary domains for cold email, make sure you buy .com domains or any top-level domains like .co or .net. Now you know what kind of secondary domains you should get, preferably .com domains. But what should your secondary domain sound like? Ideally, your secondary domain should be similar to your primary domain. For example, if you have a domain Salesforge.ai, your secondary domain could be trysalesforge.com or getsalesforge.com. It's simple, but it still should reflect your brand. Of course, you don't need to think of these names yourself and try to look up available domains. Nowadays, everything is simplified with automations. So I'll show you how to find available domains that match your primary domain automatically a little bit later. If you think you're good to go, you're wrong. There's a lot more to do before you can confidently say that your domains follow the best practices. Your secondary domains look nice, but if anyone curious visits your secondary domain, they won't see anything. That's because we need to set up domain redirection. What domain redirection does is sends whoever visits your secondary domain to your primary domain, meaning that if you visit trysalesforge.com, you'll end up on Salesforge.ai on the primary website. And we can set up domain redirection by editing domain DNS records. And this is 1 out of 4 DNS records you need to set up if you want to have the best email deliverability possible. The other 3 DNS records are SPF, DKM, and DMARC. You also have custom domain tracking, but that's optional if you want to track open rates or link clicks. Now you may be wondering, what are those DNS records and how do you set them up? SPF, DKM, and DMARC records are basically safety features that protect your domains from being used by spammers and scammers sending phishing emails on your behalf. You don't really need to know how they work and what they do as long as you have them set up correctly. To check if your domain has required DNS records set up properly, simply use any free domain checker like MX Toolbox or Warmup. If you're wondering how to set up DNS records, worry not. In a bit, I'll show you how to do all of it automatically. But before that, I want to talk about an alternative to domain redirection: domain masking proxies. This is another trick that can increase your deliverability, and here's how they're different. Domain redirection simply pushes anyone who visits your secondary domain to your primary domain, but domain masking proxies don't do that. Instead, they mirror all of the content you have on your primary domain, your website, to the secondary domain. There's no redirection at all. People visit trysalesforge.com and browse it as if it's Salesforge.ai. Domain masking proxies are better than domain redirection because redirection can look suspicious in the eyes of email service providers like Gmail and Outlook. I know this could feel overwhelming or confusing, but don't worry. Like I mentioned previously, I'll show how to automate all of this process, finding and setting up domains with proper DNS records, following the best practices. And we'll do that in less than 5 minutes in the next module. See you then. In this module, I'll show you how to buy and set up domains following the best email infrastructure setup practices. There are a bunch of tools that can help you automate infrastructure setup. But no matter what tools you use, they will land in 1 out of 2 categories: shared infrastructure or private infrastructure. Like in this example, InfraForge with private infrastructure and Mailforge with shared infrastructure. I will not bore you with the details about each and the differences between shared and private infrastructure. The only difference is that Mailforge shared infrastructure is better for those who are starting out, while private infrastructure is better for the experienced ones. In private infrastructure, you take care of your own deliverability, meaning everything is a lot more flexible because you're the only one on that infrastructure, but it comes with the drawbacks. If anything goes wrong, you can destroy your whole infrastructure's reputation. And that won't happen with shared infrastructure because you're sharing infrastructure with other people. And this way, you're kind of using their built-up reputation, so if one of your domain and mailbox fails, it won't influence all of your infrastructure. So no matter which one you choose, the setup will be the same. So again, if you're less experienced, I suggest you go with Mailforge. If you're quite experienced, then you should go with InfraForge. Now, in this tutorial, I'll showcase how to use InfraForge, but it doesn't really matter because for the both apps, for shared and private infrastructure, the setup is identical. So if you want to use Mailforge, you can simply follow the same tutorial that I'll do on InfraForge. Let's begin with the domain setup. First, you want to sign up to InfraForge and go to the Domains tab. Once you're there, simply click Create Domains or click on the plus button next to the domains. Once you do that, you'll be able to add your primary domain. Remember, once you add your primary domain, for example, with Ronnie.com, you'll be able to select how many domains you want to generate. Now, the amount of domains you need will be determined by how many emails you want to send. So before you add how many domains you want to buy, simply go to Mailbox Calculator, and here you'll be able to calculate how many domains you need to buy and how many mailboxes you'll need to buy in the future. Basically, if you want to send 3 emails per contact and you want to have 2 mailboxes per domain and you want to process 1,000 contacts per month, you will need 3 domains. What if you do more? You'll need 25 domains and 50 mailboxes. So basically, before you go and buy anything, use a mailbox calculator to determine how many domains and mailboxes you need. And now, since we see that we'll need 25, we can go ahead and add 25 right here. Now what will happen is when you click Generate Domains, InfraForge will create secondary domains for us. We'll find available secondary domains that match our primary domain. So let's just wait. And here, as you can see, it generated all the domains we could use. It checked the available ones, it found the top level domains, .com domains, and it found all of them. So as you can see, trialvidrein.com, justvidrein.com, teamvidrein.com, so on and so forth. Now you can add more or delete the ones that you do not like. Let's delete most of them just to make the tutorial easier. And once you have the domains that you like, you can just simply check out. You click next, it will automatically add the domain forwarding for you. You can add DMARC email to forward all of the emails, and then you continue and check out. And simple as that, your domains are all set up with all of the DNS records that we talked about previously, SPF, DKM, DMARC set up for you, meaning you don't need to do anything like that. Your domain research, finding top level domains, finding available ones, buying and set up DNS records is all automated in less than 5 minutes. And we're going to use the same app, the app that we bought the domains with and set them up. But before that, we need to talk about the best practices when it comes to Mailbox setup. And we'll do that in the next module. The best practices for Mailbox setup when doing cold email are as follows. Be mindful of the limits. That's it. There's not much to do when you're setting up mailboxes because most of the setup is done on the domain level. But you should never go over certain mailbox limits, and here they are. First, you should only create 2 to 3 mailboxes per domain. Anything more than that doesn't make sense, as you could quickly stress the domain and ruin its reputation. Second limit is email sending limit per mailbox. You should only send 50 emails per mailbox per day. 30 of those emails being cold emails, emails that you actually use to reach out to your prospects, and the rest, 20 emails, should be warm-up emails. We'll talk about them in a bit. And that's literally it. Those are the limits for the mailboxes. If you follow them, you'll never fail, unless you skip the mailbox setup. But don't worry, mailbox setup is so simple, it only consists of 2 things: mailbox creation and mailbox warm-up. In this module, we'll cover creation, and later, I'll share everything you need to know about warm-up. Mailbox creation is simple. You first want to create the names for your mailboxes. Basically, who do you go by? This can be random names. Female Latin names tend to perform better right away. But if you choose your own name, it might be smart to Americanize it. Meaning, if my name is Simonas, I'd rather use Sam or Simon as my mailbox names. This just tends to perform better. Same goes with your signature. Add anything, your name, your role, just never add any links. If you want to mention your website, follow this format. That is because links in email copy damage deliverability. We'll cover that more in depth in future modules. Similarly to the domain setup, mailbox creation can also be automated. Let me show you how you can do it using the same app we use to create and set up domains in the next module. In this module, I'll show you how to purchase and set up mailboxes following the best practices. We're going to be using the same app we used to purchase and set up domains. So in the same app, InfraForge or MailForge, simply go to the Mailbox tab. Remember how we calculated how many domains we need? Well, it also gave us the number of the required mailboxes. That's how we know how many we should buy. For this example, let's say 10 mailboxes. So simply go to the Mailbox tab, purchase few mailbox slots, and then create mailboxes. Now you'll be able to automatically generate mailboxes or create mailboxes manually. Let's go with auto generation feature. Click auto generate mailboxes, select the domains we want to use. Let's use them all. Select how many mailboxes per domain we want to use. Let's do 2. Then we select what names we want to use. I suggest doing random male and female names, and then click next. Now everything will be generated for you. We have the signature that you can edit for each mailbox. For example, first name, last name, vidrein, space, dot, space, com. Remember, we don't want to use links in our signature, or vidrein.com, like that. And you click generate 10 mailboxes, and that's it. Your mailboxes are generated in seconds, right? You don't need to do anything. Everything is set up following the best email sending practices, the best mailbox setup practices, and all of that good stuff, meaning that it will save you a lot of time and effort when it comes to creating mailboxes. As you can see, I've created some previously and I successfully use them now. Now, if you think you're done with the email setup, you're not. Apart from optional things like different IP addresses or domain masking proxies that we went over previously, there's one crucial thing that you also need to do. and that is email warmup, which we'll cover in the next module. The second most important thing in Mailbox setup is Mailbox warmup. Mailbox warmup, also known as email warmup, is the act of sending and receiving a periodically increasing amount of emails to artificially boost Mailbox reputation. In human words, your mailboxes mimic human behavior, so in the eyes of email service providers like Gmail or Outlook, your mailboxes look like they're doing good. They're not fresh mailboxes created by spammers. No, they're real mailboxes used by real people. Mailbox warmup is one of the most important steps in cold email infrastructure setup. This is the main reason we started off with infrastructure setup rather than leads or email copy. It's so important that you should warm up your mailboxes for at least 40 days before you send any cold emails. That's how significant it is. That's why we want to get infrastructure out of the way so we could work on other things while it warms up. It's important to note that you should never turn off email warmup if you're doing cold email. You built your reputation, now you want to keep it. So remember this, email warmup should always be on. Now you may be wondering, how in the world do you do email warmup? Will you need to send out emails yourself, open and read emails you receive? All of that just to build reputation? Truth is, doing it manually across tens or hundreds of mailboxes would be silly. You can of course automate it, and automating is as simple as signing up to a proper email warmup tool. Like always, I'll show you how to do it in the next module. As I mentioned previously, email warmup is essential. That's why in this module I'll show you how to warm up your email mailboxes. To warm up our mailboxes, we're going to be using tools like Warmforge or Salesforge. If you're not using Salesforge to send out cold emails, you can use Warmforge as long as you're using Microsoft or Google mailboxes. And warming up Outlook or Gmail mailboxes is as simple as connecting them. That's it. You simply log in to Warmforge, click Add Mailbox, connect any mailbox you want, for example Gmail or Outlook, and that's it. Your warm-up has begun. You'll see this toggled on, and your mailboxes will be sending out and receiving emails to increase your sender's reputation. Warmforge is very useful because it helps you keep track of your warm-up days, your heat score, and your domain and mailbox health. Now, if you're using anything else, for example, Mailforge or InfraForge to create the domains and mailboxes, you can use Salesforge to warm up those mailboxes. If you use Mailforge or InfraForge, it will save you a lot of time because what you can do is click Add Mailbox and import from any of these providers. This will save you a ton of time. Alternatively, you can also upload a CSV file containing all the information about your mailboxes or upload mailbox by mailbox one by one. You can also, of course, upload Gmail or Outlook mailboxes. And once you do that, you also just toggle warmup on and you'll see your reputation right here. Once you click, you'll be able to adjust email warmup settings, which I suggest you don't do because they're already following the best practices, and that's it. Once your warmup is finished, the app will notify you about it. Now you may think we are done, but you won't succeed with cold email if you can't maintain the reputation of your domains and mailboxes. That's why in the next module, we'll share how to ensure your deliverability stays at the tippy top and how to avoid having your domains blacklisted. So, see you in the next module. You set everything up following the best practices, but it's not over yet. Your foundation is solid, but if you abuse it, it's bound to crack. That's why in this module, I'll share how to maintain your reputation, how to ensure your deliverability is always as good as it can get, and what to do if it drops. First of all, what am I even talking about? What is domain and mailbox reputation? Well, you know how some people try to reach out to you but always land in spam, while others are hitting your primary inbox every time. That happens because people with low reputation are instantly pushed to the spam folder, while those with great reputation can effortlessly reach your primary inbox. We know that we earn reputation by setting up domains and mailboxes correctly and doing email warmup. But how does one ruin domain and mailbox reputation? Let me share it so you could avoid it. You destroy your reputation by not following the best email sending practices. Meaning, if you spam everyone and go beyond mailbox limitations, that's going to influence your reputation. If you send 20 follow-up emails, people will get tired of you and it will mark your emails as spam, which further reduces your reputation. Same goes with using spam words in your email copy. We'll cover it more in depth in the future modules, but just know that it also influences your reputation. Sending templated emails can also cause you to lose reputation. Sending irrelevant emails is also frowned upon. And most importantly, contacting emails that you did not validate beforehand. This is one of the worst mistakes because you could demolish your reputation in one sequence by reaching out to inactive mailboxes, or worse, spam traps. Spam traps are mailboxes that are designed to catch people like you and I, salespeople, called emailers. Those mailboxes are there to prevent unsolicited emails and spammers who do everything in bulk. Meaning that if you buy a huge lead list or scrape emails yourself, you might end up having a spam trap mailbox in your list. And if you don't validate your emails, you won't find the spam trap mailbox and you'll reach out to it. And that's where everything will crumble. Spam trap mailboxes are set up by domain blacklists. So if you reach out to a spam trap, you end up in a domain blacklist, and this is not good. There are hundreds of domain blacklists, and if you end up in any of the major ones, your reputation will plummet and you won't get out of the spam folder. The most important blacklists are Barracuda and Spamhaus. There are others, but they might not influence your deliverability as much. So, how do you know if you're in trouble? Well, first, you'll notice your metrics drop. Your reply rate will plummet. Less people will respond because you're no longer landing in the primary inbox. If this happens, you need to check if you're in any of the domain blacklists. And doing that is as easy as using the same tool we use for Warmup, like Warmforge. And if you are in any of the major blacklists, the best option is to spin up new domains and mailboxes. Yes, you can try to fix your reputation and apply to be removed from the blacklist, but it's a tedious and long process. So usually it's better to trash the blacklisted domains and mailboxes and create new ones. Now, if you use Warmforge to check if you're in any of the blacklists, you might have noticed another thing: domain health and mailbox placement. These things are also important and are a part of your ongoing email infrastructure maintenance. Domain health shares the overall status of your domains. That includes MX and DNS records, whether or not you're in any of the blacklists. Under each mailbox, you also see how long they've been warming up for and their heat score. The higher, the better, of course. But mailbox placement is different. Mailbox placement shows how well your mailboxes perform when reaching out to major email service providers like Gmail and Outlook. Mailbox placement is a free test you can do online that tests where you land when you reach out to other mailboxes. Is it the primary inbox or the spam folder? This helps you understand your reputation a lot better. If you're landing in spam, well, you must be doing something wrong. If you land in the primary, good. This makes up everything you need to know about email infrastructure setup and maintenance. The next subject is lead generation. We'll cover the best practices, your ideal customer's profile setup, and the best way to find leads. So, see you in the next module. Lead generation refers to gathering contacts and information about them so you could use it to contact them and write personalized and relevant cold emails. Lead generation has a lot of nuances and it has to be done right, otherwise you'll fail. You'll be reaching out to people who have no interest in your services and you'll blame that cold email doesn't work anymore. It's all about inputs. Poop in, poop out. That's why I'll share everything you need to do to perfect lead generation. We'll cover the best practices of lead generation, how to set up your ideal customer's profile to start generating leads, how to generate leads for free, organically, inbound and outbound, how to scrape leads and where to buy lead lists, and how to enrich them. And we'll finish off with one of the most important aspects, email validation. So without further ado, let's begin with the best practices of lead generation. Like I said, it's super important to get lead generation right. You could have the best infrastructure, emails that always land in the primary mailbox, email copy that's brilliant, but if your prospect data is awful, you won't get any results. That's why you need to follow one simple rule when generating leads: quality over quantity. I know you heard people say that if you don't get results in sales, just double or triple your outputs. No sales after 100 cold calls? Just call 900 more times. No one responded after 500 Instagram DMs? Those are rookie numbers. You need to send 10,000. And while this approach is partially true, you do need to conduct a lot of cold outreach. It doesn't mean that you should be reaching out to anyone just to increase the quantity. Yes, it will satisfy your brain. It will feel like you've done a lot of work, but actually you just fooled yourself. Tactics like these, where you scrape a bunch of random leads and reach out to everyone, are called spray and pray, and you should never do that. Instead, you need to focus on quality. The better the inputs, the better the outputs. Think of it like this. Who would get more replies? You, who sends out relevant emails to 1,000 prospects who are in need of your services, who suffer from a pain point your product solves, and prospects who have the money on the table, or Jordan, who sends out 10,000 cold emails to everyone? Of course you'll get way better results even if you send less emails, because Jordan will be reaching out to inactive mailboxes, to people who have no decision-making power, to people in companies with over 1,000 employees, to prospects who have no budget for his services. That's because Jordan is focusing on quantity rather than quality. Quality is all about nitpicking the best, highest quality leads possible to give you the highest return in the shortest amount of time. And when I say quality, I mean a couple of things. Data, which should be up to date and relevant, and target, which should be as precise as possible. And for that, you need a correct ideal customer's profile setup, which we'll cover in the next module. If you set up your ideal customer's profile correctly, you'll answer a ton of questions. Who to look for and where to find your leads? What problems do they face and how do you position your product? Who will buy your product the second they see it? And knowing all of these answers will make sales a breeze. That's why we'll set up your ideal customer's profile before we do anything else. And we'll do that by simply answering questions. To make it easier, I'll answer the questions as well as if I'm selling Salesforge. So let's begin our ideal customer's profile setup. First, who suffers from the problem your product solves? Since I'm selling Salesforge, my answer would be agencies, sales leaders, SDRs. I wouldn't say entrepreneurs because that's just too broad. You want to be specific, but nothing is set in stone. It's even better if you add more options now and filter down later on once you answer all of the questions. For example, I added 3 variants, but I already suspect that SDRs may not have the budget for Salesforce products like Agent Frank. So if I'm pitching Agent Frank, I'll remove SDRs from my ideal customer's profile, or ICP for short. Second, who is actively looking for the solution and is willing to pay? Logically for me, it will be easier to sell to people who want to do cold outreach rather than to people who know nothing about sales. So from my previous answer of agencies, I could filter it down to lead generation agencies because they for sure do some type of cold outreach. Who can actually afford your product? Usually the answer is simple. Anyone in the first world countries, the United States, Canada, Japan, the United Arab Emirates, and almost all of Europe. I know that Europe is not a country, but you know what I mean. This doesn't fully answer the question though. It only shares the location of our ICPs. We also need to know who has the money. So we filter down by revenue. Salesforge is a low ticket product, meaning that it's pretty affordable. So I could go with almost anyone. But it doesn't mean that everyone who has the money can actually buy your product. That's because they don't have the decision-making power. So who has the power to decide to purchase your product? A sales rep might want to buy Salesforge, but he'll need to ask the sales manager before he can purchase anything. So ideally, I should skip the middleman and reach out to the sales manager directly. You see, not everyone in the company has the power to decide to purchase something. So you need to talk to the people who are responsible for driving results, who need your product, and also are high enough on the ladder to make a decision to invest. Another question you can ask yourself is, where do these people hang out? Where does your ICP come together? Is it LinkedIn, Product Hunt, Facebook groups? What is it? For me, it's probably LinkedIn and Twitter. For you, it could be way different channels, but answering this will help us generate leads organically. We'll talk about that later on. It's also useful to find out what solutions, if any, your ICP is currently using. Do they use any alternatives to your product that you can filter down by to have even higher quality leads? Does your ICP use outdated software? For example, since I'm selling Salesforge, a cold email tool, I could search for prospects using competitors like SmartLead, or prospects who do LinkedIn outreach using HeyReach. This way, I right away know that these people have a problem they want to solve and they're paying money for it. Now, this might not be a question that everyone could answer, but if you have any current clients, you should ask yourself, what common traits do your best existing customers share? The answer to this question is a great indicator on who you should target when doing cold email. Answering these questions will not only help you set up your ICP and set up you up for success, but it also answers other questions you would ask yourself in the future. Everything you answer now will help you in the future to write an effective copy or handle objections. So, by sticking to my example of me selling Salesforge, this is what my ICP could look like. Founders, sales managers, CEOs of lead generation agencies in the United States that are making more than $100,000 per year with no more than 250 employees using HeyReach. I'm filtering down by role, industry, business model, location, revenue, company size, and products they're using. Simple but effective. And now that we know exactly who we want to target, we'll learn how to find them. In the next modules, I'll share how to actually generate leads for free or buy amazing leads for cheap. So, see you in the next module. There are hundreds of different ways to generate leads. You got free and paid, inbound and outbound. But let's start off with the most popular and everyone's favorite, free ways to generate leads. There are two ways to generate leads for free. You can either scrape them or create lead magnets and have them come to you. In this module, we'll cover everything there is about lead scraping, what tools to use and what websites to scrape and how to scrape them. And like always, after all of the knowledge, we'll have a raw module of showing everything in practice. So let's begin. There are a lot of tools you can use for lead scraping, and you'll need different tools to scrape different websites. So let me share them all. Instant Data Scraper is one of the most popular scraping tools. It's a Chrome extension that allows you to scrape almost any website by selecting a table that has your desired information. It has auto scrolling or next page features that allow you to scrape automatically. Another similar tool is called Ultimate Web Scraper by Panda Extract. This works similarly to Instant Data Scraper, just with more features. You can automate Panda Extract Scraper to visit any website from your list and pick certain information, or use it the same way you use Instant Data Scraper. Alternatively, you can use any mouse and keyboard macro like mini mouse macro to automate any mouse movement and keyboard clicks to scrape almost anything. This tool requires a little bit trial and error, but works flawlessly. Last option is to simply copy all of the data from the website you want to scrape and have ChatGPT or another AI tool format the data for you. This is the least accurate and least efficient way, but it does the job. As promised, I will share how to use these tools in practice, but before that, we need to figure out where to use them. That's why we'll first determine what websites we want to scrape. The website you'll scrape will be determined by what kind of leads you want to find. Usually, this is different for every person, but let me share some general options so you could get an idea of where to find leads yourself. We first have social media scraping. By using the tools mentioned previously, you can scrape almost any social media page. And the best way to do it is by scraping the followers of your competitors or people who engage with posts in your niche. For example, you can go to any Instagram page in your niche, click on the list of their followers, and extract all of their names and profile links. You can do the same using LinkedIn. Find a popular post, view who liked it, and scrape everyone. Or go to the search, filter down by your ICP, and scrape everybody. Like I said, you can do this across any platform. LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook groups, school groups, it doesn't matter. Just find lists with a lot of people or do a great search and you can scrape everybody. Apart from social media, you could also scrape niche platforms. This will again be determined by your ICP, but niche platforms consist of platforms like myip.ms for people focusing on e-com or other ICP, platforms like Product Hunt for people working with SaaS companies, maybe even Home Advisor, Yelp, or Google Maps if your ICP is there. Essentially, you can scrape any website that has a list. All you need to do is adjust the filters to only see your ideal customers and then start scraping. Lastly, we have an universal website that will work for anybody, and that is Google. Google is a great way to find and scrape leads for free. Only caveat is that you need to know how to do it. Luckily, it's easier than you think. To find any type of lead you could imagine, you'll need to use Google Advanced Search. Simply go to Google, select Tools, Advanced Search, and here add any filters you would like to search by. For example, you can find emails of UGC creators on Instagram by searching the term UGC creator, adding @gmail.com as the exact word or phrase, and adding instagram.com as the domain. Search it and you'll find thousands of leads you can scrape. And this works for any niche and any platform. Now you know what tools to use to scrape leads and where to find them. So in the next module, I'll show you everything in action to help you understand it even better. See you in the next module. In this module, I'll showcase how to use certain web scraping tools, how to use Google search to find leads, and how to do all of that good stuff, scraping websites and getting leads for free. So let's begin. So let's say, for example, we want to scrape Product Hunt, right? We have recent launches, let's say last month, January, right? And we want to scrape all of these tools to later reach out to them. So what we can use is Instant Data Scraper Chrome extension. What it does is when you turn it on, it right away scrapes all the data that it sees. If it doesn't select this table with the data that you want, you can try another table. And then if it's still not the one you want, you click another table. As you can see, this one scraped information here. We don't want that. We don't want this one. We don't want this one. We want this one, right? And what you can do then is either, if we wanted to go from page to page, we would locate the next button and then it would scrape the website and go to the different page. But now what we want to do is scroll indefinitely, right? So it will scroll and gather all of the information, because when you scroll down, it should load up new one. Wait, nope, because we are on daily, we should go to monthly, and now we'll have a lot of, see, it's loading, right? So we turn it on, it will highlight this data, we click start crawling, and it will do everything for me. As you can see, it has scraped 34 rows. It will update now 50. We'll keep scrolling, and if it doesn't load for at least 20 seconds, it will pause, right? So as you can see, min delay and max delay, and you can change this. So edit the min delay to make sure the websites don't think you're scraping. So if you're loading different websites, right, you might want to increase the delay so you don't look like you're scraping, because they might restrict your access. And as you can see, we already have scraped 134 leads. I mean, not leads, just information about the potential leads, right? And once let's click stop, but you would scrape everything. Once you do that, you just download the CSV or copy all of the data. You can, of course, edit the data that you do not need, yada, yada, right? But for example, the problem with this is when you scrape this information, you don't have the data like the CEO name, the emails, or anything like that. Because of that, you want to do something that would automate the process of getting that information from the data you scraped. So what we found were links. We have a list of links that push us to this website, right? And here, what we can do is actually extract the website URL. As you can see here, it says CapCut, right? What about this one? Here we load it up. We would, of course, edit the links to not show this module. You just scrape these, but how do you do it automatically? As you can see here, down below it says testsprite.com. We could scrape them by using an app called Minimouse Macro. I also mentioned this one, and what this app does is it records your mouse movements. So, for example, what we would do is we would press record. As you can see, it's recording now, and whenever you click, it loads your buttons. See? Whatever I do, it records the buttons, and then it will play whatever you did, whatever you recorded. So for example, if I start recording, I click here, I click copy, and I go here, I can paste the link. So this way I can automate and putting all of the data into my CRM or whatever software I have, right? So now let's just test it if it works. Yes, it copies, I'm not doing anything. It goes to a different tab and it should paste it, right? It works. So there you go. This way you automate scraping all of that data. Of course, you don't really need to do that if you use an app like Panda Extract, right? Because this app can take a list of those URLs that we had and automate all of this process for you. So if you're using Panda Extract, you can do both. Extract a list and then go through each page and extract the data. Also, Panda Extract works on more channels than Instant Data Scraper. For example, if I want to scrape something on LinkedIn, I would use Panda Extract, right? So, for example, we find a post with our ICP. Let's say this one. It has 83 likes. We turn on our scraper, right? We have list, start list extraction. We select which list we want to scrape and what information, right? So let's say, yeah, all of this information. And as you can see, we already have a sample data, and we can run automation. It will auto scroll and get all of the information we need of all of those likes, right? Run automation. See, it's scrolling for me. It's doing everything for me. It will scrape them. And then we can export this data and use it to enrich leads, find their emails, or any of that good stuff, right? Boom. It's done. Scrolling should stop any second now. Here we extract page details or export it as CSV, whatever. Done. We got leads for free. Now, last way to get leads that I mentioned is Google search. Google. So for example, what you want to do when you go to Google is go to Tools and click Advanced Search. And here you can search anything you want. For example, UGC Creator, right? And then it will search anything with these posts. And what phrase we want is @gmail.com. or at hotmail.com, right? This way, it will show all results of people that have their Gmail address in their bio, all UGC creators, right? And you can do this with realtors, anything, contractors, anything basically, right? And then we do site or domain, Instagram.com, or it could be TikTok.com, whatever it is, right? But that's what we're doing. And now we click advanced search. And this way, as you can see, we're getting leads and their information right here. What you can do then is get all of this data, plug it into ChatGPT to format the data, or you can just use any of the tools I mentioned previously, and that's it. And this way, as you can see, we get emails of our leads for free. Of course, you should still verify them, but you get a lot of great leads. And this is completely how you scrape leads for free. You can even validate them for free, but I'm not gonna show that today. You can view it on our YouTube channel. Now, there's another way to get leads for free without doing any scraping, and this way is by using lead magnets. That's why in the next module, I'll share what lead magnets are, what kind of lead magnets are out there, and how to use lead magnets to generate high quality leads on autopilot. So, see you in the next module. Lead magnets are basically freebies that you give away in exchange for contact information. For example, I could give you this course, but to access it, you would need to input your email. When you do, I save your email, and now you're a new lead in my CRM. Lead magnets are a great way to generate high quality leads that are interested in similar services to yours automatically. So in this module, I'll share the kinds of lead magnets that are out there, listing them from easy to do to hard ones. I'll share how to create proper lead magnets and how to distribute them for the highest result. So let's begin. There are a bunch of different lead magnets. So to make it all easier, let me list them by difficulty, starting from easy and ending with hard. The easiest lead magnets to make are lead magnets that you could share on social media. This includes all kinds of freebies like checklists, best practices, industry news, lists of tools, templates, case studies, and strategies. You can simply write up a doc or a Google Sheet including this information and share it across different social media channels, generating a bunch of leads. And because the lead was generated organically, it will be easier to pitch them your services. Distribution of this type of lead magnets is simple. Write up an engaging post on LinkedIn, Instagram story, or Twitter, add a meme, blurred image, or sped up video of the content of your freebie, and ask people to comment a keyword to get access to the freebie. Then automate replying to those comments with apps like ManyChat, and there you have it, a list of high quality leads that are ready to buy. It might sound difficult, but all you need to do is copy any successful lead magnet format and you're good to go. Second, we have medium difficulty lead magnets. These are lead magnets that require a lot more work and expertise to create or require you to periodically do something. For example, webinars. Webinars are a great way to generate high quality leads organically, but it takes a lot of time and effort to create a great webinar. Same goes with courses, video training, ebooks, or free consultation. These kind of lead magnets require a lot more time to be invested, but the harder the lead magnet is to make, the more valuable it is. That's why it's likely that medium difficulty magnets will outperform previously mentioned lead magnets you would share on social media. Also, once the ebook, course, or video training is made, it can be reused forever. So these type of lead magnets are great, especially for those who are established in their niche. Lastly, we have the most difficult to make but most efficient lead magnets. I'm talking about free tools. It's very likely you used one before. You Google some sort of tool, you see a free one, use it, it asks you for your email to send you the content, you get it, love it, and now you entered someone's drip campaign. If you don't unsubscribe, you'll start getting emails from that tool, sharing or pitching you something. That's how free tools work. But they're the most difficult because tools are hard to make. It requires some coding knowledge and proper search engine optimization for these tools to work well. But if you do it right, they will outperform every other type of lead magnet without requiring you to maintain it, answer questions, or attend webinars. If you ever thought about making a tool to generate leads, here are a few ideas you can try. Create a tool that gives your user a glimpse of what your services could help them achieve. For example, Salesforge has a tool that allows you to create a personalized cold email in seconds. This perfectly shows how Agent Frank works and can get people to purchase or book a demo. You can also create a tool that simplifies any annoying task in the industry. Maybe it's caption generator for social media, DNS record checker for cold email domains. It can be anything. And if you have at least a little bit of coding knowledge, you can quickly spin up tools mentioned previously using apps like bolt.dev or Lovable and Chat ChatGPT. Deploy it and start generating leads. But if that's not enough, you'll need to buy leads. And that's what we'll cover in the next module. See you then. Lead databases are a great way to get high-quality leads quickly. Lead databases are basically huge lists that contain information about hundreds of millions of leads, and you can access lead databases, filter it down by your ICP, and extract the desired amount of leads in minutes. In this module, I'll share the most popular lead databases that you can use and how to use them. There are a bunch of different types of lead databases. While most of them are built and function the same, the difference lies in the type of leads they provide. For different types of ICP, you might want to use different type of lead databases. So let me share a couple different type of lead databases to hopefully help you find the one you need. First and the most popular is Apollo.io. Apollo.io has almost 300 million leads and it's one of the biggest lead databases out there. It's a safe bet for almost anyone as it has so many leads. It also has a different search for companies instead of people, which can be useful for some. Crunchbase is another popular lead database, but rather than having all kinds of leads, Crunchbase primarily focuses on SaaS or tech companies and shares fundraisings, acquisitions, and similar information about companies. It's a bit more in-depth with industry news and all sorts of triggers like fundraisings that can help you find higher quality leads. Before I share how to use lead databases, let me cover the last one, LinkedIn Sales Navigator. LinkedIn Sales Navigator is basically a lead database that consists of all the accounts on LinkedIn. It's a great way to find and even reach out to leads if your type of ICP is on LinkedIn. If lead databases sound interesting to you, you might want to learn how to use them effectively. So let me teach you. Generally, most lead databases work the same. You select certain filters based on your ICP, you get presented sample data, and if it's good, you export the desired amount of leads and all of the information about them. So how do you filter down to see the best leads possible? Well, that's why we did the ideal customer's profile setup before we started lead generation. We'll use information we created during the ICP setup to quickly and easily adjust filters in any lead database to find the highest quality leads. Usually, the most important filters in all lead databases are these: location, number of employees, industry, and job titles. These four will be the main filters. You also have other optional but super helpful filters like revenue, email status, buying intent, signals, keywords, technologies, funding, and job posting. By using the main filters, you'll be able to filter out anyone that isn't your ICP. And with the extra optional filters, you'll be able to focus on leads that have the highest buying potential. For example, leads that are working with your competitors, who are actively searching for the solution you offer, leads who are hiring someone like you, or companies with funding rounds or other signals. Now I know, this may sound confusing or overwhelming. Fiddling around with filters takes some trial and error before you get it right. That's why I'd like to share an alternative called LeadsForge that's scheduled to be released in the beginning of March of 2025. LeadsForge is not like any other lead database. While other databases rely on you doing all the work, like filtering leads, LeadsForge is different because it does all the search for you. Instead of adjusting filters, you simply chat with LeadsForge as if it was your virtual assistant, and it will find ideal prospects for you. Just like other lead databases, LeadsForge also has millions of leads that you can access. It's just easier to access them because LeadsForge uses AI to determine what kind of leads you actually need. You first share a real example of your ideal client, for example engineers in Apple, and it will go ahead and find leads that match your input the best. If needed, you can always refine your leads by adjusting the filters, just how I explained previously. And once you're happy with the sample, you can push leads to Salesforge to start sending emails or export it as a CSV. Simple! So far we covered both free and paid ways to get leads, but it's not over yet. Sometimes when you scrape leads or buy lists, you find yourself wishing you had more information about the lead. Maybe you want to use extra information to personalize cold emails, or you want to start doing multi-channel outreach. Whatever the reason is, you need to find a way to efficiently find more information about the leads. And you do that with lead enrichment, which we'll cover in the next module. See you then. Lead enrichment is the process of taking scraped or bought lead lists and adding missing information about the leads. Maybe you scraped a bunch of LinkedIn profiles of your ICP and now you need to get their emails. Or maybe you bought a huge list of leads, you have their emails, their LinkedIn, information about the company, but you want to cold call as a follow-up, so you need their phone number. Basically, with lead enrichment, you gather more information about the leads you already have, and enriching leads is easier than you think. There are two ways to enrich leads. The first one is using the databases I shared previously and filtering out by the information you have. Maybe your lead's name, company name, website URLs, keywords, maybe even email addresses. But this option isn't the most accurate and you might lose some leads. Even worse, if you bought the leads on the same platform, you won't be able to enrich them. That's why there's a second option. Waterfall enrichment platforms. What waterfall enrichment means is that instead of you using one database to find information about their leads, the app will go through all kinds of different lead databases to find every single piece of information about the lead there is and bring it to you. Let me give you an example. Instead of you going to Apollo.io and getting leads there, you can use Full Enrich and it will browse through Apollo, Hunter, and 15 different lead databases to find the information you need. That is waterfall enrichment. But before you can go and blast cold emails, there's one crucial step you need to take in order to successfully prepare your lead list for cold outreach. And we'll talk about it in the next module. See you then. No matter where you get your leads from, you scrape them yourself or buy and enrich lists, before you can contact those leads, you need to complete one simple but crucial step: email validation. I briefly mentioned email validation in the infrastructure setup. Email validation is the process of checking each and every email in your lead list to determine whether or not the email address is safe to be reached out to. Let me explain. There are a lot of different types of email mailboxes. You have regular, normal mailboxes, but you also have inactive ones. You have catch-all mailboxes, you have full mailboxes, raw mailboxes, you have spam traps, disabled or disposable mailboxes. There's a ton of types, but you only need to know one: valid, regular mailboxes, because that's the only type of mailbox you want to reach out to. Reaching out to any other type of mailbox increases the risk of your emails bouncing and decreasing your reputation and reducing your deliverability. That's why it's so important to validate all emails you want to reach out to before you actually do. Remember in the infrastructure setup I talked about domain blacklists and spam trap mailboxes? Well, that's how you destroy your infrastructure, by not validating email addresses and reaching out to invalid, disabled, or spam trap mailboxes. Email validation cannot be skipped. One automated sequence blasting emails to risky mailboxes is all you need to destroy your whole infrastructure. But because this step is so important, people made it super easy to validate emails. All you need to do is upload your list, wait till the email addresses are validated, select the valid ones, and only reach out to them. To make it easier, in the next module, I'll walk you through this process step by step. So, see you then. In this module, I'll showcase how to validate email addresses. Now, as I mentioned previously, validating email addresses is a crucial step if you want to maintain the highest deliverability possible, right? So I'm going to show you how to validate emails using Salesforge. Now, the process of validating emails will be similar across any app you use, right? Whatever app you use, it will look the same. So for this example, we're going to be using Salesforge. What you want to do is first, of course, upload your contacts into Salesforge and then go to sequences. I'll showcase how to create a full sequence later on, but now we're only covering the part where we validate the leads. So click create new sequence. This doesn't matter for now. We'll name it whatever because we'll cover everything later on. But now you want to add your contacts. Select, let's select anything. Let's select a few random ones, add few contacts, and then you will see that you can validate those leads before you reach out to them. So what you want to do is click start validation process, and you will need to wait a couple minutes. While you're waiting, the app is going there and checking the email addresses to see whether or not they're valid. As you can see, the email addresses were validated. One of them is a catch-all email, and that's why we're going to exclude it out of our list. The only accounts we want to reach out to are safe accounts, right? The ones that are validated and are good to go. Basically, they will be able to accept our emails. The emails will land in the primary mailbox if your deliverability is good. Those are accounts of the person we're trying to reach out to. It's not some role, that reaches out to the company as a whole. It's not a spam trap. It's not full. It's not disabled, yada, yada. Meaning, reaching out to these mailboxes will ensure we maintain our deliverability. Now, what you notice as well is probably Google Workspace accounts and other accounts right here, right? So what this means is that the mailboxes we're reaching out to are Google Workspace mailboxes or other. And this information is important if you also have Google Workspace accounts or others, because this way it allows you to kind of ESP match. And ASP matching means email service provider matching, right? So whenever you reach out to Google Workspace accounts, you should be using Google Workspace accounts because this way the deliverability is higher. Now, of course, this is not crucial, this is not super important, but for example, Outlook recently released new changes where they penalize mailboxes with domains that are not older than 1 year. So for example, what this could help you with is if it said Outlook accounts, right? You could just check them off and not reach out to those accounts in order to not destroy your deliverability. Again, this is optional. You can reach out to those or not reach out to them if you want, but this is an extra feature in Salesforce that helps a lot that other email validation tools don't really do. And once you do that, it's simple. You click next and add the validated emails to your sequence. Now, there are some occasions where you don't want to reach out to some people. For example, you don't want to reach out to your competitors or people you reached out in the past. That's why there's a thing called a DNC list, do not contact list. And we'll talk about it in the next module. Do not contact lists, or DNC lists for short, are lists that consist of leads that you never want to reach out to. For example, you could fill your DNC list with your competitors or people you reached out to previously and people who replied, "Stop emailing me." DNC list is crucial for any cold outreach campaign, and setting it up is super simple. Just upload the information of leads you don't want to contact to a list and you're done. Theoretically, we are done with lead generation, but there's one extra thing I want to cover to help you get even better results than you could ever imagine. So, see you in the next module. So far, we covered everything. You learned how to create an ideal customer's profile, where and how to find leads for free. You learned about lead databases, lead magnets, and email validation. By following these tips, you'll undoubtedly succeed. But we can take it even a step further with something that I call intent validation. You see, we did set up our ideal customer's profile. We filtered leads to find the highest quality ones with the highest buying intent. We validated emails to only reach out to active mailboxes. Our setup is perfect, but we'll only get through data once we start sending out cold emails and getting or not getting any replies. Based on this newly found data, we can further validate our leads to see whether or not we should double down on our ICP or set up a new persona. Let me explain. You might have set up everything perfectly. You have found leads who want your services and have the money to buy it. But you'll only know if these leads are good once you start reaching out to them and seeing how many of them actually reply, how many of them actually book sales calls, and how many of them actually convert. This is the most important data point you should focus on. If you think your ICP setup is perfect and you got the most ideal leads, but none of them reply, or they do but they're not interested, then it's no use to focus on that ICP, on those kinds of leads. What I'm trying to say is that the data you get from outreach, the number of positive replies, booked sales calls, and closes, is the most important data you should focus on. It's just as important to A/B test different ICPs as A/B testing different channels, different sales copy, and pitch. But it's important to note that before you make any decision to change your ICP, you need to have enough data. Meaning that if you send 100 cold emails and got 0 replies, you cannot decide that your ICP is bad. That's not enough data. You need at least 1,000 data points to make a solid decision. Even then, I'd say you need a bit more, but start off with at least 1,000 leads contacted to make any changes. Anything below that is not sufficient enough to decide anything. This makes up the last module of lead generation. The next subject is sequence setup, where we'll cover the best practices of writing cold emails, how to write a perfect pitch, everything there is about follow-up, sequence settings, and more. So, see you in the next module. Your cold email sequences are like instructions that tell the app when and how to send out cold emails, what to send, how many times to follow up, and what metrics it wants to track. Proper sequence setup is important if you want to get great results. Everything from settings that influence deliverability to copy that persuades, you need to perfect everything. That's why we'll cover the technicalities, rules, and limits of cold email sequences to ensure the highest deliverability. We'll cover what makes up a solid cold email, how to write call to actions, and what to send in the follow-ups. And we'll figure out how to use AI to automate hyper-personalized cold email writing. And in the end, I'll share a full raw tutorial of how to set up a cold email sequence starting from zero. So, see you in the next module. Your email copy is the most important part of the sequence. That's what sells and gets your lead to book a sales call. But any little mistake in your copy can also demolish your deliverability. That's why in this module I want to share the do's and don'ts of email copy, highlighting limitations, rules, and other technicalities. So let's begin. There are 3 types of emails: templated emails with an icebreaker, and unique emails. We'll cover them all, but now let's focus on templated emails. Templated emails have the worst deliverability out of of them all. Because they follow a template, all of them look similar. And if you blast a lot of similar or worse, identical emails, email service providers will notice that you're automating this process and your deliverability will suffer. That's why if you're sending templated emails, you want to use spin tags. Spin tags is the process of randomizing the contents of your email with synonyms, so each email you send is a little bit different. Let me give you an example. Instead of saying, "Hey Frank," you write, "Hey, hello, heya, hi Frank." And this way, every time an email is sent, it will pick a random option for the greeting to make the email different from the previous one. Once you do it with your whole email copy, you create thousands of different variations, you send different emails, and this way email service providers don't think you're automating the process, because all emails are unique. Spin tags is the bare minimum if you're sending cold emails. Without it, you're not gonna make it. Luckily, spin tagging your email copy is as simple as clicking auto spin tags in Salesforge and you're done. I'll show it more in depth in the raw tutorial in the end. You can take a step further and do better than just spin tagging your emails. And I'm talking about using custom variables. Custom variables allow you to input custom information for each lead. For example, you know how I gave you an example of saying "Hi Frank"? Well, not all of your leads are named Frank. We want to change this name into your lead's name. If you're reaching out to Susan, we want to say "Hi Susan." If we're reaching out to Adam, we want to say "Hi Adam." And we do that by using custom variables. You can insert any kind of variable like company name, first name, last name, location, date, anything, and even custom variables to make emails personal to your prospect. Not only do custom variables allow you to use valuable information you scrape to your advantage by mentioning the company name or lead name, but it also increases the deliverability by making your emails unique and personal. Custom variables are also a bare minimum for cold email. That's why setting them up is as easy as doing spin tags. Simply add custom data to your leads when you're importing them, and when you're writing your copy, insert a custom variable. Again, I'll show a raw tutorial on how to do it at the end of the sequence setup subject. For now, let's carry on with the technicalities of sequence setup. Sticks and stones may break your bones, but words may never hurt you. Wrong! Certain words can definitely hurt your email deliverability, and I'm talking about none other than spam words. By using spam words in your email copy, you risk of destroying your email deliverability. You see, email service providers like Gmail and Outlook secure their users by defending them from scammers, spammers, and promotional emails. They do that by analyzing emails sent by shady people and using those spammy emails for pattern recognition. If you use spam words, the same words used by scammers, ESPs will think you're a spammer and push you to the spam folder. And of course, we don't want that. But how do you figure out what words are spam words to avoid using them? Well, it's again easier than you think. If you're writing your email copy in Salesforge, it will automatically highlight any commonly used spam words. Change them and you're done. Alternatively, look at a library that has hundreds of different spam words, learn them all, and avoid using them. Doesn't matter which option you choose, just make sure to not include any spam words in your email copy. Another thing that can not only influence your deliverability but also reply rate is email length. By sending lengthy emails, you're sending a lot more content that the recipient needs to consume before replying, and this reduces the chance of them actually replying. Imagine you were sent an essay instead of an email. You wouldn't read paragraphs sent by a stranger pitching you something. No, people don't even read emails, they scan them. That's another reason why templates are not a great idea, by the way. Back to the topic of email length. Don't send stories. Keep it short and simple. Something between 50 to 120 words is ideal. The shorter you can get your point across, the better. Remember that your prospect gets a bunch of emails like yours per day. They won't read them if they're long. You may have heard of cold outreach tactics where you send looms, videos, memes, or other images or GIFs. And while these tactics work for some channels, it's not a good idea to do it via cold email. That is because any attachments influence your deliverability. This means you should send cold emails as plain text, stripping away any tracking pixels like open rate tracking or link click tracking. You should avoid linking any websites or products, and you shouldn't send looms, images, videos, or any other attachments. You can do it, but only if it makes sense. For example, if by sending videos in the initial email you get more replies, it's logical to keep using videos even if the deliverability with them drops. Important to note that this does not apply to follow-up emails. You can use anything when sending follow-ups. We'll talk about that in the future modules. Lastly, we have emojis. You shouldn't use emojis in your email copy. Not in your subject lines, not in your pitch, not even in the follow-ups. You can, but emojis make your email seem like it's automated or generated by AI. AI, so avoid using them. Now, if you write the email copy yourself, you might find yourself coming up with different ideas on how to present your offer or product, what case study you want to include, or the type of CTA. But it might be difficult to put them all into one email because of email length limits. That's why you should always AZ test your cold email copy. If you ever have different ideas for your pitch or greeting, you can create different variations of your email copy and set it up as an AZ test. This way, once you launch your sequence, you'll test different angles. The more data you have, the better copy you can write later on. But like I mentioned previously, you can only make a solid decision once you have enough data. And enough means at least 1,000 cold emails sent for each variation of the copy. Anything less than that is just not enough to make a solid decision. This applies to all three types of emails I talked about: templated emails with an icebreaker, and unique emails. No matter which type you choose, you should always syntax your copy, use custom variables, avoid spam words, emojis, and attachments, keep the emails short, and AZ test constantly. Now you know all the technicalities, rules, and limits of email copy, but you still need to learn what makes up a great cold email copy. In the next module, we'll learn everything about your pitch, personalization, CTAs, and more. Basically learning how to write a perfect cold email. So, see you in the next module. Your email content can make or break your cold outreach campaigns. It's literally what your lead reads and sees, so you have to make it perfect. Your email copy is where you present your product as the solution to your prospect's problems and sell your product. So, let me share literally everything that makes up a perfect cold email so you could write it yourself, generate a ton of replies, book sales calls, and make money. In this module, we'll talk about subject lines and how to write one that gets your prospect to open the email. Later, we'll talk about personalization, offers, and CTAs. So let's begin. Starting off with the subject line. Subject line is that little part of the text you see before opening any email. This is exactly what gets your prospect to open the email and read it. So before you perfect your cold email copy, you need to perfect your subject line. Most people look at subject lines online, find performing ones, and copy them. But that's a huge mistake. If you found a list of great subject lines on Reddit, some article, or a YouTube video and try to use it, you're digging yourself a hole. By using subject lines that are shared publicly, like quick question or partnership, all you do is look like 1,000 other people who use the same subject line. It's silly, don't you think? We worked so hard to remove spam words and other crap to avoid pattern recognition filters that push us to spam. But now we join the pattern by using the same subject line 1,000 other people use. Remember, your prospect also notices patterns. That's why I said templates perform the worst. And that's also why you cannot just take any subject lines from the internet and use them yourself. You can, but it's likely that your prospect will notice that you're doing cold outreach. So you may be thinking, what do you write in the subject line? What will get the prospect to click and read the email? What stands out from the pattern of redundant subject lines? Well, figuring out what to write in the subject line is easy. Subject, line, subject. That's what you write, the subject of the email content. What are you writing about in the email copy? Why are you reaching out to the prospect? What is your product? What problem do you solve? That's what you write about in the subject line. You don't need to use any marketing tactics or buzzwords. You don't need to add emojis to break a pattern or say pizza delivery to get the prospect to click and then mislead them. It's not as complicated as you may think. People have made subject lines so complicated by adding tricks to them, trying to create urgency and scarcity. But there's no need for all of that fluff. Subject lines will perform better if instead of adding stuff, you remove. So for example, if you're selling lead generation services, you can simply title your email as lead gen. If you're offering content creation, your subject line could be content. It's literally that simple. We go back to the roots of what subject lines are. No need for any of the fluff. The reason of the subject line is to let the reader know what the email is about. Think about it. Even if you have the best subject line in the world, the subject line alone won't get your lead to purchase your product if they don't need it. So just keep the subject line relevant. Video editing, paid ads, sales call consultation. This will not only do the job of the subject line, but it will also stand out from all the quick question subject lines, essentially breaking a pattern that's made up by all of those gurus online. And if for some reason prospect loses your email, it will be easier to find because the subject line is actually useful this time. It's not just quick question. Now, I did mention that we want to break a pattern and stand out with our subject lines. After all, our prospects get hundreds of emails per day. If you don't stand out, they won't open our email. But a huge mistake I see people make is do everything to break the pattern. That's a huge mistake. You shouldn't try to scream at 10 emojis, capitalize everything, or do any weird stuff, unnatural stuff, to try and break a pattern. Breaking a pattern comes naturally. If you write a subject line that's relevant, it should be enough. No need for silly tricks like stop sign emojis. Now you know how to write the first line of your cold email outreach that will be seen by your prospect, the subject line. In the next module, we'll pick apart what makes a solid cold email. So, see you in the next module. Your cold email is made up of a lot of little parts that are made up of even smaller parts. You have a greeting, personalization part that's also called an icebreaker. You then have an offer that itself is made up of couple parts. And then you have a CTA. Let's work our way down the list, starting off with the greeting and personalization of the cold email. Greeting is the first thing your prospect sees once they open the email. Greeting and personalization are one of the most important parts of the email copy because that's what differentiates you from others. The personalization will let the prospect know that the email isn't just a spray and pray template. Personalization or an icebreaker will trick your prospect into thinking that you've done research about them and are sending genuine emails. Another important thing to mention is that your greeting or icebreaker will become the preview text. Preview text is the little text that's seen before opening the email after the subject line. So by writing a great icebreaker, you increase your open rate even more because you make your prospect curious. By now, you may be wondering, what in the world do you write in the icebreaker or personalized line? The greeting itself is simple. Hey, first name, or something creative you come up with. But what about personalization? Well, the weakest form of personalization is using custom variables. You can use custom variables like company name or location or any other information to write a personalized line. But like I said, it's the weakest because custom variable personalization just looks bad. This type of personalization is almost worse than no personalization because it lets the prospect know that the email is automated. So instead, you want to genuinely personalize cold emails with an icebreaker. And you do that by either learning about your prospects and writing unique lines for each and every prospect and using them as custom variable, or you let AI do all the work with apps like Salesforge. The latter is much more time efficient. You just add an icebreaker variable or select to let Salesforge write the whole email for you using AI and you're done. Alternatively, if you're doing it yourself, you might want to scrape information about your leads, enrich leads you scraped previously, or do anything else to gather enough data that you could use to write a personalized line, or even better, a whole personalized email. But that comes with a huge cost of you spending hours doing cold outreach. That is because you'll spend tens of minutes per email trying to personalize it, and that doesn't scale. So it makes sense to rely on automations. Adding an icebreaker or personalizing the whole email will greatly increase your reply rate. But whether or not you can book a sales call and sell your services or products will be determined by your offer, which we'll cover in the next module. Offer in your cold outreach message is one of the most important part. It shares everything about what you do, what your prospect will get if they choose to work with you, how and when will they get it. The offer is made up of a couple of parts: the claim, evidence, and risk reversal. All of these parts should be specific and tangible, and we'll take them apart one by one. So first, let me teach you about the claim. The claim in your offer is basically the part where you tell your prospect what value you're offering. With the claim, you explain what your prospect will get if they work with you, how soon will they get it, how will they get it, and what they need to do in order to get it. Let me explain. Claim is made up of 4 parts: result, time frame, vehicle, and effort. Let's discuss them one by one. Result is basically your product or service. Maybe you're selling leads, 5,000 of them. Maybe it's content creation services where you make 30 short form videos. Or maybe you're selling a cold email campaign setup. Whatever you're offering, it has to be super specific. The examples I gave you aren't specific enough. You have to understand that business people don't really care about what you do or how you'll get them some sort of result. All they care about is the end result, the outcome of working with you. So instead of sharing that you'll set up a cold email campaign, you should say that you'll get your prospect a specific amount of sales calls. Same goes with content creation. No one cares about how many videos you can make. Your prospect doesn't even care about the views you'll get them with those 30 videos. All they care about is how many people will actually visit the website after seeing those videos and then convert. You see, when talking about the result, you shouldn't talk about what you'll do. You should talk about what your actions will result in, cause and effect. Instead of sharing the cause, you want to share the effect. Basically the end result, the outcome of whatever you do. Are you selling paid ad consultations, or are you selling a 50% decrease in cost per click? Are you selling lead generation, or are you selling 30 sales calls a month with the right ICP that's ready to buy? You see, the result you share shouldn't be about you. It's not about what you really sell. It's more about what will the outcome be, the result of what you sell, what your prospect will get. You're not selling a car which is just a ton of metal. You're selling a comfortable way of transportation. You're not selling a bunch of bricks and mortar. You're selling a place that people will call home. You get what I'm talking about? Me as a prospect, I don't care what you sell. I care about where the product you sell will get me. If you offered me Neuralink and said this is a great chip that's super tiny and can do calculations in milliseconds, I wouldn't care. But if you said Neuralink will help me move my paralyzed limbs, then wow. Open my skull and put 2 in. Let's go. Basically, we are doing what the best marketers do. We sell benefits and not features. That's why I titled this part as a result and nothing else. So you would remember that this is the part where you mention the result, the benefits, not the feature. But sharing the result doesn't make your claim specific enough. You also want to share the time frame. By sharing the result, you let your prospect know what they'll get working with you. By sharing the time frame, you let your prospect know how soon they will get the promised result. Time frame is simple. If you mention that you'll book 30 sales calls in the result, you simply add the time frame of how soon you'll book those 30 sales calls. It could be in a month, in a quarter, whatever. The faster, the better, of course. If you're selling leads or a one-time product that's not an ongoing service, you might not need to use a time frame. But it's crucial to mention a time frame if you're promising any improvement or results. Otherwise, people who offer the same services, your competitors, and mention the time frame will be prioritized over you. So mention the time frame it will take for your prospect to see your promised results. And after you do that, you also need to mention how you will get the promised results. And you do that by sharing something I call the vehicle. The vehicle is basically the method or type of your service or product. Because we went so specific on the result part, it might be confusing to the prospect of what you actually do. So to avoid confusion, we want to mention our vehicle. For example, if you mention that you'll increase the organic traffic to the website by 10,000 visitors, you should also mention how. And you could do that by simply saying with short form content. This is important because it answers a lot of questions for the prospect, like their effort that we'll talk about in a bit, and it lets your prospect know what you're actually doing so they could compare you to your competitors, themselves, and a lot of other stuff. So whatever you're selling, when you share the end result with a time frame like booking 30 sales calls per month, it might be smart to also mention the vehicle, which could be Instagram DMs or something else. Or you don't mention it and drive curiosity so the prospect would reply. We'll talk about that a bit later. Now your prospect knows what they'll get if they work with you, how soon they will get it, and how they will get it. The last thing they want to know is how much effort they will have to put in to get the promised results in the promised time frame. And that's what I call the effort. Effort part basically answers the question to your prospect of how much time or money they'll need to invest. Most of the time, by sharing the vehicle, you'll also answer the effort question. For example, if you mention paid ads as a vehicle to get more traffic, your prospect will right away know that they need to allocate some budget to paid ads. Same with booking sales calls. Your prospect will have to pay for leads and tools. But in some cases, you still need to mention the effort, because if you promise to get more traffic to the website with a product like short-form content creation, your prospect might be confused of what they'll need to do. Will they need to write and film the content themselves? Will you write it and they film it? Who will edit the content? That's why when you're mentioning the result, the time frame and vehicle, you should also mention the effort. Is it done for you? Is it done with you? Or is it do it yourself? The effort will depend on the type of services. Consultation is usually do it yourself type. Lead gen is done with you because the client needs to take sales calls, while content creation can be all done for you without the prospect lifting a finger. Mentioning the effort is not super necessary, but it's still an important aspect of your claim. which further answers the questions that could pop up in your prospect mind whenever they're reading your claim. But even now, there are still a lot of unanswered questions that could pop up in your prospect's head, and if those questions are left unanswered, you won't close the deal. So let's dig deeper and cover other questions in the next module. With the claim, we answered most of the questions. Your prospect knows what you're offering and how soon they would see the results. What your prospect is wondering now is, can you actually deliver on your promise? And you answered this question by sharing evidence. Evidence is a very important part of your offer. It supports the claim and proves that you can not only talk the talk, but also walk the walk. Sharing evidence is simple. You just tell the prospect about the past results you got for your clients. And you do that by sharing a case study or a testimonial. Whatever route you choose, sharing personal results, case study, or a testimonial, it doesn't matter. You should still follow the same rules you followed while writing the claim and the whole offer. Be specific. When you're sharing the evidence, share the exact result and the time frame. There's no need for vehicle or effort because the prospect knows that already. Just share an example of your past work, not the inputs, the outputs. Just like in the claim, we have to be specific and mention what the prospect wants to hear. The benefits, not the features. It doesn't matter how many videos you made. What matters is how many clients your videos got. It doesn't matter how many leads you previously scraped for your past clients. What matters is how many of those leads actually converted. Extra points if you name drop your previous clients. By mentioning real companies or people in your case study, your prospect can Google and verify the information, making the evidence concrete. For example, instead of me saying that I made 15 YouTube videos for Salesforge last month, I'd rather share how many inbound leads my videos generated. That's way more important and interesting to the prospect. That's a great example of the evidence. But even if you provide amazing evidence, your prospect may still doubt you. That's why you want to use something called a risk reversal, and we'll talk about it in the next module. Risk reversal is the last part of the offer. Your prospect knows what they'll get. They know you've done it successfully in the past. But what they don't know is what will happen if you fail to deliver the promised results. And sitting in this unknown state may keep them from booking a sales call or even replying. That's why we want to use a risk reversal. Risk reversal does exactly what it says. It reverses the risk. Instead of your prospect risking a hefty sum of money or even time, investing it in working with you, you shift that risk upon yourself. Let me explain. Without a risk reversal, your offer is just you asking for money in exchange for something. Even though there's evidence, there's no guarantee that your product will work and generate the promised results. So the prospect is essentially risking everything to work with you, and that might make you lose the deal. That's why we want to reverse the risk and make you the one who's risking everything. You do that by adding guarantees like a full refund guarantee, which means that if you fail to reach the promised results, you'll refund the prospect. Or maybe you could use a performance-based pay where instead of a fixed retainer, you are paid based on the results you help your prospect achieve. Or you could even be paid after the results. This way you take away all the risk from your prospect and put it upon yourself. If you fail to deliver the results, your prospect doesn't lose anything. You do. And this risk reversal strategy greatly increases the chances of your prospect replying, booking a sales call, and even becoming your client. This is everything that makes up your offer. A perfect offer. A tangible claim that's made up of a specific result, time frame, vehicle, and effort. Evidence with a case study or a testimonial, and a risk reversal. But this, of course, isn't the end of your email copy. We still have some things to cover like a CTA. But before we do that, I want to mention something important. Each part in your offer is optional. Nothing is set in stone. While the result and time frame are super important, mentioning the vehicle might not be necessary. And this applies to each part I covered. These are the variables that you can and should change and test, but it doesn't matter that you should always have them all. AZ tests different variations, and perhaps doing less will work better. Now we're ready to talk about the last part of your email copy, the CTA. So, see you in the next module. Call to action, or CTA for short, is the little text at the end of the email that lets the prospect know what they should do next. CTA is basically the next step. It could be booking a call, sending information, replying, whatever. Here are a few examples. There are two types of CTAs, hard CTAs and soft CTAs. Hard CTAs are CTAs that ask a lot from your prospect. For example, book a meeting here, or do you have 15 minutes for a quick chat? Or can you send a calendar invite? While these type of CTAs might seem logical for you to use, they're terrible because they ask your prospect for a ton. To understand this better, look at everything from your prospect's perspective. You get an unsolicited email that's trying to sell you something, and at the end, the stranger that sent the email is asking for 15 minutes to chat, and this happens to you 10 times per day. Insane, no? You wouldn't give everyone 15 minutes. Right? Exactly. That's why you shouldn't ask your prospect of the same thing. 15 minutes scheduling a call is a lot, especially because you're a stranger to them. Hard CTAs deter prospects from replying. Instead, you should use soft CTAs. Soft CTAs aren't designed to book sales calls or sell. They're designed to spark conversations, which is the main thing you should be trying to do. Soft CTAs don't ask your prospect for much. They're usually simple validation type questions like, would this be useful to you, or can I send more information, or let me know if you're interested. Those are soft CTAs. With them, you lower the barrier, making it quick and easy for the prospect to reply. Think about it. Would it be easier for your prospect to go ahead and book a sales call after the first email they get from you, or would it be easier for your prospect to simply reply yes? Of course, it's the latter. Soft CTAs will always outperform hard CTAs in the long run. So even though it feels backwards to try and chat with someone rather than book a sales call, I suggest you try it yourself and you'll definitely notice an improvement. CTAs and your email. So with this module, we're finishing off what makes up your initial email copy, but we're not done yet. We have a lot to cover before we have a full sequence. We need to set up our follow-ups, and we'll do that in the next module. Follow-up emails are emails that you send after the initial email. You first reach out with a personalized offer, and if you don't get a reply, you follow up. Following up increases the reply rate by reminding the prospect of your email or by providing more information. In this module, we'll cover the technicalities, rules and limits of follow-ups, and also what to actually send in your follow-up emails to generate replies. So let's begin. Just like with initial emails, follow-up emails also have some rules and limitations. Overall, they're not as strict as initial emails. You can send attachments like images or videos because the initial email has already landed in the primary mailbox. You should still, however, spin text your follow-up emails and follow other rules we mentioned when we talked about writing the email copy. Rules like not overusing emojis, keeping the email short, and avoiding spam words. Ideally, you should send up to 2 or 3 follow-ups. Anything else than that just doesn't make sense, as the chance of getting a reply diminishes while the chance of getting marked as spam increases. So, what should you send in the follow-up emails? There are a couple types of follow-up emails. Let's start off with the least effective ones, bumps. Bump follow-ups are simple email follow-ups that are designed to bring the email to the top of your prospect mailbox. That's it. They don't provide value, they don't entertain. All bump emails are just bump texts like just bumping this, following up, have you seen this, simple stuff like that. They do work, but you can do a lot better than that by sending memes. Memes are a great way to catch your prospects off guard, have them share the email with colleagues, and most importantly, get them to reply. There are all kinds of memes you could use for follow-up emails. You have GIFs, videos, images. No matter the format, you should go a step further and personalize the memes to have a bigger impact. I made countless videos on how to do that on our YouTube channel, so I suggest you take a peep after you finish the course. But overall, meme follow-ups are better than bumps because they seem like you're putting more effort, even though you can automate them just like you automate any regular follow-ups. Now, if you want to go even beyond, send better follow-ups than memes, then you'll need to learn about value follow-ups. Value follow-ups are follow-ups that share some kind of valuable information. This could be anything. For example, freebies. Freebies like the ones we covered in the lead magnet module. Checklist, templates, strategies, prompts, SOPs, anything that's valuable to your prospect. You could also send valuable information like industry news, tricks and tips, or ideas. And lastly, what I would also categorize as value follow-ups are case studies and testimonials. Follow-ups are a great place to share a video testimonial from your clients, share case studies, or any other proof of your services to further build your reputation. And this makes up the follow-up module. In the next module, I'll share how to automate everything I mentioned previously using AI, so you wouldn't have to think what to write, how to spin text, or even scrape information about the lead to personalize the email. So, see you in the next module. Up until now, you have learned a lot. By now, you should know what makes up a successful cold email copy, the limitations and rules that you need to follow to maintain the best deliverability possible. But following these practices and writing a perfect cold email yourself might be difficult. That's why in this module, I'll share how to use AI to your advantage to avoid writing any cold emails. We'll use AI to skip literally everything we talked about. We won't need to write the initial email ourselves at all. It will be hyper-personalized based on your product and information about your prospect. Now, like I mentioned previously, at the end of the sequence setup subject, I'll have a raw tutorial of setting everything up. So now, let me just quickly explain how AI written emails work, and in the end of the subject, I'll show a full guide on how to set them up, together with the whole sequence. So, let's begin. Currently, the best tool to generate hyper-personalized cold emails is Salesforge. It's the first tool that started doing this, and it does it better than any other tool. You can literally test it for yourself by going to Experience Agent Frank page. How Salesforge AI written emails work is they combine the information you provide about your product together with information Salesforge scrapes about your lead from their LinkedIn profile or website. Then Salesforce uses this information to write a hyper-personalized cold email that has an offer that's super relevant to your prospect. This results in a couple of things: unique emails that increase deliverability, personalized and relevant emails that increase positive reply rate, and less work on your shoulders by automating email writing, lead enrichment, info scraping, and personalization. And setting this up is easier than you think. You first add your product details in Salesforge. You let the app know what you're selling, your unique selling points, and pain points you solve. Then you make sure you upload leads with the required data, either LinkedIn, website, or both, whatever you want to use to personalize the emails with. Once that's done, you simply adjust AI settings in the sequence, select the data source, tonality, and other features, and review AI written email. Simple as that, you automated all of the email writing process, following the best practices and doing it faster than manually with even better results. That's literally it for AI written emails. In the next module, we'll cover sequence schedule and settings and prepare you for the launch of your first cold email sequence. So, see you in the next module. You're almost ready to launch your sequence. Whether you wrote the emails yourself or let AI do everything for you, it doesn't matter. You still need to adjust a few things, starting off with the schedule. Sequence schedule is basically the time when your sequence will be active, sending out cold emails and follow-ups. Your schedule should be set based on your prospect's time zone, not yours. For example, if I live in Europe and I want to target North America, I'll use their time zone to contact them when they're active. After all, I don't want to reach out to people when they're asleep, because when they wake up, my email will be buried. So, simply select your ICP's time zone, adjust the time to working hours, and your schedule is set up. If you're thinking whether or not you should turn your sequences off during weekends or holidays, I can't really answer that for you. Generally, you should turn them off, but there are niches where people work on weekends, so it might be smarter to test this out. If you don't get any replies during weekends, just turn them off. Last thing before we launch our sequence are our sequence settings. Here we'll instruct the app on how to do cold email outreach. First, you should connect as many mailboxes as possible. The more mailboxes you connect, the better, because they'll simply share the stress equally across them all. You don't want to exhaust one mailbox by giving it all the work. Connect as many mailboxes as you can. The app will use smart mailbox rotation to randomize which mailbox is used to send out cold email, and this way you'll maintain high deliverability. Second, turn on plain text only. This setting strips away any attachments or anything else from your email that could influence the deliverability. Sending emails as plain text only greatly increases your chances of hitting the primary mailbox. This setting also automatically turns off open or link click tracking, which, as we learned, also influences your deliverability. Third, turn on the bounce shield option to avoid reaching out to email addresses that have a history of bounces. This is just an extra feature. Lastly, adjust multi-threading to your preferred option. Either stop reaching out to the company if someone from the same domain replies, or don't. There are a lot of other settings, but they're optional and change from occasion to occasion, so I'm not going to cover them. Just remember to follow the ones I mentioned here. This covers everything you need to know about setting up and running a successful cold email outreach sequence. In the next module, I'll walk through everything in a raw tutorial using a cold emailing app called Salesforge. We'll set up our products, import leads, validate them, write a cold email copy, use AI, adjust the settings, and launch the sequence. So, see you in the next module. So like I mentioned, now we're going to have a full tutorial doing everything raw, setting up sequence from zero. And I'll do everything step by step so you could follow along. So we're going to be using Salesforge. And by the way, I'll share everything, how to use AI, how to upload leads, all of that good stuff. So first, before you set up your sequences, you want to set up your products. You do that by going to the Forge. You click add a new product, and here you add your product name. So for example, Salesforge. First approach, right? This is the internal product name that you'll use to differentiate all the products you added. Now you add the real product name, which is Salesforge, or it could be InfoForge, whatever. You add the industry, sales technology. You add your ideal customer's profile that we talked about, who you're targeting. You add what pain your product is solving. For example, Salesforge allows you to send hyper-personalized cold emails at scale, meaning you don't need to scale your team. You get insane deliverability, great reply rate. Solution. So basically, what does your product do? What does your solution do? Cold email automation, right? You could say that. And cost of inaction. What does your ICP, your prospect, lose if they do not work with you? So that's what you add here, and you can A/B test these things as well, adding different product descriptions. And once you add it, you simply save it. Sales, technology, legion agencies, cold email deliverability, sales, cold email automation, lost money. And once you save it, you'll see your product right here. Now what you see below is your knowledge base. You want to update this if you want to manage your replies using AI. And I'll show that in the future modules. All you do is you upload a file, and then AI will draft a reply for you so you could reply faster, handle objections, and all of that good stuff. Now once you have your product ready, or multiple products ready, you still need to upload contacts so you could actually reach out to someone and once you create a sequence. Adding contacts is super simple. You click add contacts and you have a lot of options. You can upload a CSV file, enter a Google Sheet URL, or add a single contact manually. Most of us will probably do a CSV upload or a Google Sheet URL upload. Now, if you're uploading a Google Sheet, it should look something like this. I mean, CSV, you'll select which CSV to upload, and that's it. If you're doing Google Sheet, you just upload the URL. I have an example right here. This is what it looks like. You have your first name, last name, email, website, and LinkedIn. We're uploading these because we want to use this information to personalize the cold emails using AI. Now, of course, your lead list will be huge. This is just 2 examples so you could have an idea of what does it look like. And what you do is go to File, Download, CSV, and in Salesforge, you just upload a CSV file, or again, just a link, upload, select, you add a tag, course, right? Enter, add tags. Then you'll be able to map this information. As you can see, it's already mapped. First name, last name, email. If you wrote this correctly, it would be mapped. LinkedIn and company. I'll do website. You can do custom variables. As you can see, everything is pretty good, right? We have LinkedIn, we have their company website domain URL. You can confirm and import. Boom! We have it. Now what we can do is actually go and create the sequences. Of course, you'll need to add mailboxes to actually start reaching out. But simply when you do that, go to sequences, create a new sequence, name your sequence, first ever sequence. Select the product you want to use for the sequence and click Create Sequence. Now you'll be able to add contacts. Go to Add Contacts tab and select all the contacts you want to import. I'll be selecting 2 because I only uploaded 2. But what you can do is filter out or search contacts by whatever filter you want. You can exclude contacted contacts. You can filter by status, filter by tags, whatever, right? You add contacts and then you'll be able to validate those contacts that we talked about previously and I showed you. You click Start Validation Process and all of those emails will be checked for you and the app will determine whether or not they're safe to reach out to. So now we only have 2, so it will be quick. We see that both of the options, both of the email addresses are safe to reach out to. One of them is Google Workspace, one of them is a different provider. We take them both, we click Next, and now we'll be able to build our email, our whole sequence, what we'll be sending out. So first you have your subject line, and I'll show you how to write it with an AI, don't worry. But in the subject line, like we talked about, you want to keep it simple. Maybe cold emailing, something like that. You can of course insert a custom variable if you want, maybe first name or something like that. It doesn't matter. But now you go on and write the email. You could be saying, hi, first name, how is it at company name, yada yada, whatever you want to write. Remember, we wanted to have icebreaker, offer, risk reversal, and ACTA. That was the main part we talked about, covered previously, right? So you just write that, you auto spin text everything, right? It probably will not auto spin text very well here because there's just a couple of words, but this is where your email would be. Now perhaps it would be better if I wrote an example. An icebreaker, right? For example, we were writing to Salesforge, Frank Saunders. Let's say something like, we would be, of course, inserting custom variables, but maybe something like, no way you're blowing up on YouTube with company name, right? Now, of course, this will be your whole email, right? It will not look like icebreaker offer. Here you have an icebreaker, a personalized line, an offer saying like, hey, I'll automate your cold email outreach. I'll get you $20 billion a month and full refund guaranteed, if anything, right? Want to talk about it, want to chat, something like that, right? You have a signature below. But you write your email, you auto spin tags. What you may notice is these highlighted words. What these highlighted words are spam words. Salesforce helps you avoid the spam folder by showing how good your email is. So now I'm not doing very well. I should replace these words, right? Because they are spam words, so I shouldn't be writing them. And once I do that, everything should be okay. My length is okay-ish. Everything is spin text, right? No emojis, no images, no links. So my spam potential is low. So basically, this helps you see if you have made any mistakes. Now, if you want to replace the icebreaker with AI written one, all you do is go to variables and click icebreaker. What you'll see happen there is it turns to override. Now, if you're on a higher plan, what you can do is use overdrive mode. And this way, instead of the app simply using LinkedIn information with your product information to personalize the message, or in this case, icebreaker for the prospect, it will use everything, even of the website of your prospect, to personalize the icebreaker. Now, the same goes if you're using AI written emails, right? Once you do that, you'll see something called fallback email, meaning this is the email, the template that you would send if for some reason AI fails to write a personalized email. That could happen if you forgot to add information like LinkedIn profile or website URL. You save the fallback template and then you'll be able to edit the AI written email settings, right? So you can choose the source of information, like I said, LinkedIn or website or both, and then tonality if you want, and you can use dynamic languages to reach out in your prospect's native language. Now, once you do that, whether you use your own written emails or AI, you want to add a couple of steps. These are called follow-ups. And you use follow-ups to basically increase your reply rate by following up to your previously sent email. You can do bumps we talked about, you can do value, follow-ups, case studies, whatever it is. But I recommend adding 2 to 3. There's no need for more because you're just reaching diminishing returns, right? The potential to get marked as spam increases while the chance of getting a reply diminishes. So you do that, you write it here, you also spin tags, you can use custom variables, you can insert images or whatever you want, you spam check, and that's almost it. What you want to remember as well is that you can also do AZ testing. So for example, instead of just doing an AI written email, you can do AI written email versus a fully templated email versus a templated email with an icebreaker. And this way you can just test what works better. Now, if you're using AI, you'll see an AI preview. AI preview is basically a preview email of what AI managed to generate for your prospect, right? So it's basically a sample of what your emails will look like. So as you can see here, it pulled information from my LinkedIn profile. It's pitching Salesforce, it personalized, it made a custom subject line. Everything is custom, right? Let's look at the next one. It's for Frank. It's also pitching Salesforce. That's the product we added. And this is all AI written. I didn't do nothing, right? It used the LinkedIn of mine and of Frank's to write this email. And once you're done with that, if you're happy, you go further. If not, you adjust the tone, adjust the information. You click next. You select the schedule, which should be in your prospect's time zone. You click next. You add the mailboxes that we connected previously. You should use as many as you can. The more, the better. And then you edit the settings. For example, turning off link tracking and open rate, turning on plain text, the bounce shield, right? Using ESP matching, so you could use your own mailboxes of Gmail to reach out to Gmail and increase deliverability that way. And other optional but necessary settings that you can fiddle around with. And after that, that's it.
you launch your first sequence. You're done. You can start generating replies, booking sales calls, making money, but you still need to learn how to manage replies, objections, and all of that good stuff. So we'll cover that in the next module.
You launch your first sequence, now you need to learn how to manage it. In this module, we'll cover what metrics you should follow, the industry standard metrics you should aim for, what to do to increase or decrease certain metrics, and how to make data-driven decisions that can turn everything around. So let's begin the module. Something that I already mentioned multiple times is that before you decide anything or make any changes, you need to have enough data. Before you change the subject line, before you change your lead list, before you change your pitch or your whole copy, before you change the settings, send at least 1,000 emails to have enough data for a solid decision. Anything lower than that is just not sufficient enough to make a data-driven decision. If you sent 100 cold emails, got 0 replies, and decided to change your copy, that's really just a guess. You can be sure that it's the copy that's responsible for 0 replies. That's why before you change anything, gather a lot more data. Let's say you have sent enough emails. Well, that's why I'm about to share the benchmark of all metrics you should follow. It's important to note that you should take these with a grain of salt. Metrics vary from industry to industry. The metrics I'll share are more for guidance when you're starting out rather than a value you should fixate on. With that being said, you should shoot for a 1 to 2% reply rate. The higher, the better, of course. Having a reply rate around 5% is amazing. You should be giddy in your chair if you reach that. Reply rate is heavily influenced by the relevance of your email, personalization, offer, CTA, length, and format. 20 to 30% of the replies you got should be positive replies, meaning your prospect being interested in your product or booking a sales call. Again, the higher the percentage, the better, but your bottom should be 20%. I'm not sharing the open rate percentage because you shouldn't be tracking it anyways, but if you are, it should be at least 50 to 70%. The higher, the better. Open rate is influenced by subject line and preview text. These are good metrics of your campaigns. Now let's talk about something you should avoid, and I'm talking about bounce rate. Bounce rate shows how many of your emails bounce and do not reach the mailbox of your prospect. You should keep bounce rate as low as possible. If your bounce rate is below 1%, you're okay. If it's anywhere between 1 and 3%, you need to take a look into your campaign. Did you forget to validate emails? What is the issue? You need to solve it ASAP to avoid destroying your mailbox reputation. And if your bounce rate is above 3%, you should pause or even stop the sequence indefinitely. Anything more than 3% is considered super high. This shouldn't have happened in the first place, but if it has, act accordingly. Pause the sequence, clean the list, find the issue and solve it. The last metric you should follow is spam rate, and it should be below 0.1%. Anything more than that needs attention. Are you spamming your prospects with 10 follow-ups? Are you reaching out to them again and again? Or does your email look like a scam? Whatever it is, you need to fix it. Spam reports are heavily influenced by the content of your email. If it's long, irrelevant, spammy, you might get marked as spam. To avoid getting marked as spam, you should include an unsubscribe option. This concludes your metrics. You should constantly monitor the performance of your sequences to ensure you're not destroying your reputation and you're getting the best results possible. In the next subject, we'll talk about reply management, what to reply, how to handle objections, and how often you should follow up after a positive reply. So, see you in the next module. In this module, we'll cover how to manage the replies you get from your prospects to ensure the best results. We'll cover how to handle objections, reply in seconds with AI, how to manage everything efficiently, and more. So let's begin. Before we dive in, I want to share some important rules. To increase the chance of your prospect booking a sales call or going further with a deal, you want to reply as fast as possible. It might be difficult if you're reaching out to a different time zone, but you should always aim to reply as soon as you get a reply. The faster you reply, the higher chance of your prospect replying back to you, potentially snowballing into a sales call or a closed deal. Another important thing to mention is that if you do get a positive reply, meaning your prospect is interested in your services, you should follow up as much as you need to get a reply. Now, this does not mean that you should spam, show up at the prospect's door, or call them 30 times an hour. No, you should be persistent but not spammy. Follow up as much as you need. Keep yourself on top of your prospect's mind. You get one positive reply, you should follow up until you move forward or the prospect changes their mind. But again, be persistent but not spammy. Now that you know the basic rules of replying, you may be thinking, how do you reply quickly? How do you handle objections? And how do you answer questions? How do you turn a no into a yes? Well, the most efficient option is by using AI. By using tools like Salesforge, you'll have access to something called a Prime Box. Prime Box is a place where all of your conversations come together, meaning that instead of you logging into each and every mailbox to check if you got replies to reply to the prospect, instead you see and manage everything in one place. This makes it quicker for you to see new replies and reply to your prospects, making everything a lot easier to manage. But this doesn't answer how to handle objections and answer questions quicker. Well, to do that, you first need to set up your knowledge base. I'll show a raw tutorial after this module, but you set up your knowledge base by simply uploading information about your company into the knowledge base. You share information about your product, frequently asked questions and answers, common objections, basically everything you need to reply to prospects. And once you upload the information, you'll be able to reply to each prospect using AI. Just go to your Prime Box, press a button, and AI will draft a reply by using information you provided about your company and product. This way you can handle objections, answer questions, and reply in seconds instead of minutes or hours. This way you're greatly increasing the chance of booking a sales call and saving you all the effort. Let me show you how to set up a reply draft feature in the next module. So like I said, Salesforce has a feature called Prime Box. This is where all of your email replies come into one place. Now before we use the AI draft feature, we want to go to the tab called the Forge. This is where we'll update our knowledge base. And knowledge base is basically files, text, information about your company that the AI can use to actually handle objections, answer questions, and write the AI draft. And updating the knowledge base is super simple. You click add a new file, upload a PDF or TXT file, and that's it. AI will be like reading it, okay, good, and that's it. And then you can use it by going to Prime Box, selecting any thread you want. You click reply, and there you'll see this AI draft feature. You simply click AI draft, and the AI draft will be written for you. You just wait, and there you go. Thanks for sharing your thoughts, Lydia. I totally get you where you're coming from as a creator. It's great that you're focusing on giving real creators a chance. Boom! And you have the reply ready. You can send it, or you can rephrase it, or just train the AI. You edit the product information, because in this thread we use the product, right? So it looks into that as well to know how to answer the question, yada yada. So this is it for this module. In the next module, I'll show you how to automate everything from lead scraping to sending emails, writing emails, or doing all of that. So see you in the next module. By now, you know everything there is to know on how to create, launch, and manage a successful cold email campaign. We learned about setting up our infrastructure, identifying ideal customers, finding and scraping them. We learned how to write an email copy that performs really well, or how to have AI write the copy for us. We figured out the best sequence settings, important metrics, and reply management. You must have noticed that cold email is a lot of work, where one little mistake could crumble all of your efforts. That's why I'd like to talk about an alternative that does everything for you. Yes, there's an option that sets up the whole email infrastructure for you automatically, everything from domains to mailboxes, even warming them up. An option that identifies leads with the highest buying intent and scrapes them without you lifting a finger. An option that creates hyper-personalized emails, relevant sequences on autopilot, managing replies, answering questions, and handling objections till it books a sales call. And I'm talking about none other than AI Sales Agent Frank. Agent Frank is an AI SDR that autonomously takes over all of your cold email channel. It does literally everything we covered in this course with the best practices, meaning that instead of you doing everything manually, stressing over metrics, whether or not you're following the best practices, instead of all of that, Agent Frank does everything for you. Replies in seconds, books sales calls, maintains mailbox health, finds leads, literally everything we covered in the course. So if you would like to see how Agent Frank works for yourself, I suggest you head over to Experience Agent Frank page or book a demo with our team. This makes up the ultimate cold email course by Salesforge. But it's not over yet. If you're hungry for more information, tutorials, tool reviews, comparisons, you should subscribe to our YouTube channel, where I post valuable videos almost daily. I hope this course was valuable. It was me, Sam. Have a good one, and peace.